One of the things that you get a sense of is the degree of care.
Yeah.
How much did this group of people care to make this and make it right? And they didn't do it for themselves. It's in service to the people that are going to use or buy the product. And I think there's something, the humanity of that, I think, is extraordinary. Mm-hmm. But I do think, I mean, as Mark was saying, how something's finished on the inside. I mean, you can argue that you'll never see that. Yeah. But I think we believe, and it's very difficult to explain why, but I think part of the human condition is that we sense care. Yeah. And sometimes it's easier to realize you sense carelessness. And I think, we're surrounded, our manufactured environment, so much of it, testifies to a complete lack of care, which isn't whether, that's not about your attitude towards an object. It's about your attitude to each other.
Yeah.
And so I think that sort of commitment and passion, and it can become a fanaticism of just really caring to get something right, whether you're going to see it or not. But we do that for each other.
Can you name sort of 3 sort of life lessons you took away from working with him?
This sounds really simplistic, but it still shocks me how few people actually practice this. And it's a struggle to practice, but is this issue of focus. Steve was the most remarkably focused person I've ever met in my life. And the thing with focus is it's not sort of like this thing you aspire to, or you decide on Monday, you know what, I'm going to be focused. It is every minute, why are we talking about this? This is what we're working on. You can achieve so much when you truly focus. And one of the things that Steve would say, because I think he was concerned that I wasn't, he would say, how many things have you said no to? And I would, honestly, I would have these sacrificial things, because I wanted to be very honest about it, and so I say, I said no to this, and no to that. And he knew that I wasn't vaguely interested in doing those things anyway. So there was no real sacrifice. What focus means is saying no to something that you, with every bone in your body, you think is a phenomenal idea, and you wake up thinking about it, but you say no to it because you're focusing on something else. I think there is a profound and enduring beauty in simplicity, in clarity, in efficiency. True simplicity is derived from so much more than just the absence of clutter and ornamentation. It's about bringing order to complexity.
Recently, many of our tech companies, from Facebook to Twitter, have been navigating their role in a new media landscape, sometimes with high stakes and quite a bit of criticism. What's your sense of tech civic responsibilities?
Well, I think that we've been, at Apple we've been doing this for a while, and we've had, I think, a number of ideas, and we don't see our responsibility, I think, ending when the product is shipped. I think most importantly, I think we see, we learn an awful lot that informs and influences what we do next. But I think there's no ambiguity at all for us. I think we feel very strongly that we have a moral and a civic responsibility. I think one of the things that's important in this space is, and I often go back to this, is why are you doing what you're doing? And I think probably the simplest way of translating that into the corporate space is, what is your business model? And but the reason we're doing what we're doing is, actually Steve said, I actually thought it was one of the most succinct and poetic and really, really beautiful things to say, that we make something to try and express our appreciation for the species, for humanity. And he said that in 32 seconds, and I would take about half an hour. But I think that's exactly why we do what we do. That sense of saying thank you and appreciating people that you probably will never meet.
Right, right. So why is Apple so secretive?
I actually think it would be bizarre not to be. I don't know many creatives who want to talk about what they're doing when they're halfway through it.
Really? You and I obviously know very different people.
I know lots of PR departments who want to talk about something that's being worked on. I think I've been doing this for long enough where I actually feel a responsibility to not confuse or add more noise about what's being worked on, because I know that sometimes it doesn't work out. And so I think it's just in our nature, when we're working on a difficult problem, and so many of the problems that we're working on now are so complex, it just seems rather odd to be telling everybody what you're doing.
What I want to know is, when people go into that amazing design room that you work in, and all the covers are on the tables, and has anyone actually lifted that cover up and looked?
Yes, some of the designers.
And then the third one is an interesting one, which is actually reflects a little bit poorly on myself. But I remember having a conversation with him and was asking why it could have been perceived that in his critique of a piece of work he was a little harsh. And we'd been working on this, we'd put our heart and soul into this. I was saying, couldn't we be a little bit more, could we not moderate the things we said a little bit? And he said, well, why? And I said, well, because I care about the team, and I care about, and he said this brutally, brilliantly insightful thing, which he said was, no, Johnny, you're just really vain. Oh. And he said, no, you just want people to like you. And I'm surprised at you, because I thought you really held the work up as the most important, not how you believed that you were perceived by other people. And I was terribly cross, because I knew he was right.
From Steve Jobs to Steve Jobs. I grow little of the food I eat. And of the little I do grow, I did not breed or perfect the seeds. I do not make my own clothing. I speak a language I did not invent or refine. I did not discover the mathematics I use. I am protected by freedoms and laws I did not conceive of or legislate. And I do not enforce or adjudicate. I am moved by music I did not create myself. And when I needed medical attention, I was helpless to help myself survive. I love and admire my species, living and dead. And I am totally dependent upon them for my life and well-being. I don't know about you, but every time I read that email, its truth and its humility somehow slows time. And it quietens, I think, a little bit of the noise. And it certainly puts my trivial preoccupations in their place. But it leaves me feeling only grateful.